I want to look at these markets for a little bit because we have to understand that these markets are extremely overvalued. And I want to bring something to you guys' attention because if you are on Twitter just like me, you have probably seen that SpaceX is going public through an IPO at about a $1.7 trillion valuation. That will be the largest valuation and the largest IPO in history. And to accommodate this IPO, the NASDAQ changed their rules. And how it used to work is that if you want to join the NASDAQ, you have to have price discovery in your stock for, I think it's up to like 3 months or something like that, to give the market a little bit of time to evaluate your stock correctly. Because there are a lot of index funds and a lot of financial products that are built upon the inclusion of the NASDAQ 100. So if you add a stock to this, there is a lot of passive buying that is automatically going to buy stock. And that is very important because if a stock is not priced correctly and it enters the NASDAQ 100, that means that a lot more buying is going to come in and it's going to dilute the actual valuation even more. Now, the NASDAQ has changed its rules to accommodate the SpaceX inclusion into the NASDAQ 100 because it's going into the NASDAQ 100, right? SpaceX is going public and then it most likely is going to go into the NASDAQ 100, which means that a lot of 401ks have the NASDAQ 100 in it. A lot of pension funds have the NASDAQ 100. So a lot of retirement money is going to be buying into SpaceX. Lane Adams, the SpaceX going public will hopefully boost Rocket Lab as the more reasonable valued space company. Honestly, SpaceX has a very interesting business component, which is Starlink, and that actually makes money. So Starlink is the part of the business, it's part of SpaceX that does satellite internet for, a couple million people worldwide. And so SpaceX is three businesses combined into one. SpaceX is an AI business, right? It's Twitter with XAI in it. That burns a tremendous amount of money. Every single month, it burns through billions of dollars. Then it has actual SpaceX, which is a rocket company that loses a tremendous amount of money as well because it does a lot of research and development into new rocket technology, which of course is extremely expensive. And then thirdly, it's got Starlink. And Starlink is actually a cash cow for them. It actually makes a lot of money because what SpaceX does is it launches rockets into the sky. And these rockets are filled with satellites. These satellites spread out over the whole world. And these satellites do some form of internet. And they give a lot of people satellite internet, which is very useful and which actually makes them a lot of money. So the actual rocket business doesn't even make them any money. I don't believe rocket businesses right now are profitable in general, but who knows? If war comes, all of these rocket companies will be extremely valuable because that's the next frontier in war. It's going to be space. Who knows? Maybe they're going to get tremendously big Pentagon deals, and it becomes part of the defense industry or something like that. But still at that point, even if they get tremendous amounts of defense spending, the valuation still doesn't make any sense. 1.7 trillion for this company that loses $5 billion a year is it's a horrible deal, no matter what happens in the future. Honestly, Big Bird, will that drain liquidity out of gold and silver? Well, it is a passive investment, right? That is going into SpaceX. So in some way, you could say that yes, because money is going into a place that's unproductive, it's being taken away from gold and silver. But that would be the same thing as saying, let's say you have a street and that street has a lot of shops. It has a bakery, and next to the bakery, a fashion dealer is going to move in, And then the baker might say, well, it's taking money away from people, so then they have less money to spend on bread. But that's not really a comparison, right? It's two different markets with two different types of capital that's going into it. Gold and silver are primarily at this point people looking for safety, actively investing into safety, into protection. And a lot of people that we are talking to, you know, the investors in the gold and silver space, the actual mining space, that's risk capital. That's people actively investing and risking their own money. But the money that's going into SpaceX at the IPO will be passive money. So that is people putting money in their 401ks, people putting money into their retirement plans. They are passively, so without thinking, without making an active decision, they are passively buying SpaceX. So it's really two different markets here, but they are tapping into the extremely big passive investing craze that's been going on for extremely long now. Investors have really been trained over the last 20 something years to just passively invest, and then you get things like this where people play the rules a little bit better than other people, and they can IPO at a bigger price and get into the passive flows directly, and Elon Musk is perhaps going to become a trillionaire off of this deal. So basically, what Paul Tudor Jones, which is a extremely big investor, is saying that this IPO is one of the biggest IPOs in history, right? Done at one of the highest valuations in history, and he thinks that this looks a lot like 1999 and the year 2000. Recently made a video about that too, going over the similarities between then and now. Because I do believe that all of this hype in AI that is going on right now is definitely 100% a bubble. He doesn't say it like that because, of course, he's got way too big of an audience. He got way too much money riding on his opinions, but it's for sure in a bubble right now. So much money being spent into AI. And there is just not enough revenue to get all of that money back. And because there isn't, right, all of these investors in these stocks, they need to find a way out because you can only sell a stock privately so many times. There are only so many rich suckers at the table. Eventually, you're going to have to dump it on the market. And they are going to do that now. And this might mean that the whole rise in AI is over. They've pumped the valuations up as high as they can get them in the private market. Now they are going to force retail investors, they are going to force people in their retirements to start buying this stock and these stocks. A lot of these bigger tech stocks, and they're all doing extremely big buybacks. You have a stock float. Let's say a company has 100 million shares outstanding and they make so much money, right, that eventually they want to spend that money in a very effective way. Well, you can do that in two ways. You can do that by raising dividends. So for every share that you own, you get a little bit of money. But they don't want to do that for tax reasons because that's very complicated, right? And it's not the most tax efficient way to go about things. They want to do that by doing buybacks. You guys are all going to witness my artistic skills today. I hope you are very interested in that because we are doing some writing right now. But they are doing that by doing buybacks. And let's say you have 100 million shares outstanding right now, and you say to the market, we are going to be buying back 10 million of those shares, right? So in theory, there should only be 90 million shares outstanding after your buybacks. So you have to buy these shares back. And where do you do it? You do that in the open market. So where you usually have volume from just investors buying and selling your stock, you now also have volume from the company itself buying back the stock. And so that increases the liquidity in the stock, that increases the price in the stock because there's an active buyer that is consistently pouring money into the market trying to buy back the shares, and that pushes up your equity valuation. And not only does that push up your equity valuation, this number, the 90 million shares that are now left, are then used in your financial statements to calculate the earnings per share. Because let's say you have 100 million shares outstanding, you make $100 million. That means that you are making $1 per share. That's pretty simple, right? 100 million shares, 100 million profit, that's $1 profit per share. But now, let's say you have 90 million shares and you still have $100 million in profit. All of the sudden, you are making $1.10, roughly, roughly. $1.10 in profit. So that is an increase of 10% in profits per share that is out there. And you don't even have to do that, you don't even have to do anything to the company itself. If you're just running the company like you've done the year before, your earnings per share are up 10% with the increase in the volume, the increase the participants were trying to buy your stock, so increasing in the stock price. So your share price is going to go up and your earnings per share are going to go up. So that, of course, costs a tremendous amount of money to buy back all of these shares. And all of these big tech stocks have been able to buy all of these shares because all of these tech stocks have tremendously big earnings. And that's just the truth of it. All of these stocks, just Apple, Nvidia, Microsoft, Google, Meta, Tesla, Amazon, all of these stocks have such tremendous amounts of cash that they don't know what to do with it. So they are buying back their shares. And that is why, that is a reason why all of these share prices are just going up to the right and they are never ending this tremendously big bull market. But this cash, of course, isn't unlimited. And right now, right, these companies are moving, they are moving away from spending money on their share buybacks, and they are beginning to spend some more money on AI. So instead of buying back the shares, they are spending money on AI. AI is burning a tremendous hole in a lot of these balance sheets. And this can't go on forever. So eventually, these companies, if they want to invest more into AI, that means that they are going to have to spend less money buying back their shares. So there is less bids in this price. And who knows, maybe eventually that means that this price might come down. Who knows? Yeah, so the Buffett indicator is the total US market, the stock market value, divided by the annualized GDP. So these two things should be in some form of equilibrium with each other. But right now they are the most expensive they've been in history by a mile. So you can see that here. And this index is just going up and up and up over the years. So that means that the valuations being put on all of these companies is going up and up and up over time. So things are getting more and more and more expensive. And now add on the costs and the spending in AI to that. And then eventually you are going to run into a problem because eventually all that money to keep this valuation up, it has to come from somewhere. And if it's being spent billions upon billions upon billions on AI, eventually that will mean that these valuations are no longer sustainable because big buyers are going to stop buying. But, up until then, up until something really happens, we are all just wrong in that statement because things have just been moving up for so long. So why would they ever stop moving up if you see this chart?